Hello everyone, Tactical Lich here. Welcome to a Tides of Torment multiplayer battle. I'm playing as the High Elves today versus Hora del Sequio, a Spanish content creator playing as the Lizardmen. Both sides fielding terrifying monsters on their armies. For the High Elves here, of course, we're bringing the centerpiece of the DLC, the Merworm, a terrifying monster Silac One-Eye Regiment of Renown. 12,000 HP regeneration, a bunch of missile damage mitigation in terms of Scaly Skin and Abyssal Cloak for that missile block chance. It is a very tanky monster indeed, and we're gonna make it even tankier with the Mist Mage here, using the Walk Between Worlds spell, providing 55% physical resistance, and combined with the missile resistance on the Merworm, that's 80% damage reduction against physical missiles. The other spell is Flensing Har, reducing enemy armor and missile block chance to synergize better with the Lothland Sea Guard. But the more important piece of tech here is actually the Null Stone, a map-wide silencing on both friends and foe. It's a very useful item to deny enemies from spellcasting, and we'll talk about it further down the line in the battle itself. Now, we're not bringing any healing here because our leadership is actually Tyrion with his own healing, Heart of Avalon. Basically, the idea is to bring in two beatstick single entities here, Tyrion and the Merworm, and use them to slap down any dinos. Tyrion is coming in with Feint and Repulse and Sun Fang. For the rest of the army here, a staunch line of spears, backed up by some Lothland Sea Guard and the company of the Caledarian. A ship's company with armor-piercing great axes, basically the cheapest armor-piercing troop you can find on the High Elf roster, ready to deal with some Koan cavalry. Oceanid for more armor-piercing mass and a bit of monstrous presence on the front line. And that's it for the High Elf's army build. On the other side, for the Lizardmen, they're bringing not one but two Kaijus. The Feral Dreadsaurian with even more HP than the Merworm, and a Saurus Garvet riding a Carnosaur. That's some serious melee power to be contend with, and they're gonna be healed by the Slamage Priest of Life with Regrowth, Earthblood, Bound, Banishment, Shield of the Old Ones, Aura of Quetzal, Statute of Spite. Basically, yeah, the entire essential toolkit here. A front line of Skink Horde with Javelins, with some Skink Skirmishers on the side. They are backed up by some Saurus Spears and some Feral Koans plus Koan Spear Riders as well. That's it for the army builds, and without further ado, let the monster showdown begin. Battle begins, and I'm pushing my army forward, except this one Mist Mage. My micro got a bit rusty there. Thankfully, there's no Vanguard deployed characters, cavalry, or infantry to catch him out of position, so he will be returning to his formation soon. However, the Silac One-Eye here, I was planning to send him out to bait some javelin shots, but without the Walk Between Worlds, I'm not gonna send him into javelin range until the Mist Mage caught up and cast the spell. You can see 55% physical resistance plus the 25% missile resistance there. Barely making a dent on his HP bar with the regeneration healing him back up. And now he's gonna rush in and get a bit of a poke damage on those skink cohorts. Just getting some decent damage and free damage on the skinks, but right now the Dreadsaurian is coming in, so Silac One-Eye is pulling back to his own troop support. The High Elves have moved their formation onto the capture point, trying to get some victory tickets as soon as possible. The enemies are in range, so the Lothland Sea Guard are also unleashing some arrows onto the skink cohorts. Now, you can see the Javelins did a bit more work on the Silac One-Eye here, due to the lack of physical resistance. And Silac One-Eye not doing much with that body slam. You can see the Sun Fang probably did more damage. Definitely did more damage to those skink cohorts than the charge attack earlier. Spearmen pushing in, trying to screen off the Feral Koans, and I'm dropping spells onto the battlefield. Actually, also, the Null Stone has been activated. I've dropped in the Flensing Har first, and then Null Stone the entire battlefield, so there won't be any life magic coming in from the Slamage Priest for another 30 seconds. You can see it's gonna be a long while before the Feral Dreadsaurian can get any healing. The rest of the front line is also starting to engage in combat. Spears clashing into skinks, while the Oceanids are sitting back in reserve for now. Lothland Sea Guard firing in, capitalizing on the reduced armor on the Feral Dreadsaurian there. And yeah, you can see the Feral Dreadsaurian is definitely taking a beating, as Tyrion has also joined in on the fight. Two powerful single entities double teaming the poor Dreadsaurian here, who does not have any infantry support and is surrounded by enemy spears. On the far side, Oceanids are pushing up. They have a bunch of resistances, 20% missile resistance and 30% physical resistance, so they're basically receiving only half damage from the enemy blow dots. Plus, they're immune to poison, making them perfect units to chase down the skink skirmishers. Now back to the Kaiju showdown. The Feral Dreadsaurian is not enjoying this fight at all. Getting beaten up by two very powerful combatants, and spears are surrounding it, poking it down to half health, and there's still no healing. 5 more seconds until the silence ends. Its leadership is getting low, getting into rampage mode as well. Things are not looking good for this giant dino. Feral Koans will be thrown into the battle trying to provide some reinforcement here, but Feral Dresaurian has been routed. Even if healing comes in right now, it is gonna be too little too late. I can basically keep pursuing it, getting some free damage as it runs away from battle. The Lizardman is desperately trying to rally it, even dropping in a cold-blooded onto the Feral Dresaurian. But alas, it is just gonna get pushed around by the Merworm, with Tyrion stabbing at his knees, at his ankles. At the same time, the Scarvet Carnosaur is working hard to damage Tyrion and is actually getting him down to half health. The problem is the Dresaurian is constantly getting in the way. And now they're flancing hard, reducing its armor once again, allowing the Loathsome Seaguard to do a bit more missile damage, a bit more poke onto the Feral Dresaurian. Earthblood came in earlier, but unfortunately it is not enough to keep the Feral Dresaurian in the fight, so a regrowth will be dropped onto the Carnosaur Scarvet, trying to keep it nice and healthy and allow it to beat down Tyrion with a little bit of a vigor refresh as well. Even turning on Colossal Strike and Potion of Strength, really trying to juice up those melee attacks there, but unfortunately it's just not getting any attacks in due to monster jank. Even if it executes an attack, it's just not landing on Tyrion at all. And Earthblood trying to keep the Dresaurian alive while it's being poked by Tyrion from behind. And behind Tyrion, the Carnosaur is still trying to attack him, and finally a hit successful on Tyrion. But sadly the buffs are over, and that was quite unfortunate for my opponent. Seeing Tyrion has taken quite some damage, I also popped a Walk Between Worlds on him, helping him mitigate any incoming damage with that physical resistance. Now for the rest of the battlefield here, didn't really pay attention to them. The Oceanids have driven back those Skinks, and now Feral Koans are duking it out against the Oceanids, which the Oceanids should be able to win that fight. In the front line, Spearmen have pushed back the Skinks, but the Saurus Spears are able to win the fight against them, though Oceanids are once again supporting the frontline engagement. The company of Caladarian were reinforcing against the Cold Ones charging in earlier, hacked them down, but the problem is the Koan Spear Riders charge in and basically ran them down. Spears are holding back some of the enemy troops, but they are dwindling in terms of numbers and HP. Good news is that the Feral Dresaurian has been routed and Tyrion is chasing it down. However, the Saurus Scarvet is hot in pursuit. Seeing that Tyrion is alone, I'm not just leaving him out and get hunted down by a Carnosaur. So I'm recalling him back to the main formation here, dropping a Sunfang onto some Skink Quads, trying to thin out the enemy infantry support, while the Merworm is rolling in the middle of a bunch of poor Koan Spear Riders and Cold Ones, chewing them up with missile support from the Loathsome Seaguard. Tyrion has returned, activating Feint and Repulse in case there are any more incoming attacks, but now the Scarvet is decided to challenge Select 1 Eye in combat. That's not gonna go very well for the Scarvet here, with one lone dinosaur against a Merworm and Tyrion behind him. He's stuck between two powerful fighters while no support is nearby at all. Plus another Nullstone has been dropped on the battlefield there. Once again, map-wide silencing. No healing from the Slime Age Priest, despite the Scarvet can really use some regrowth right now. Honestly, this feels a bit broken if you ask me. Especially the Mist Mage can still use magic during its effect. Koans are coming back, but the focus is still on those single entities. It is a monster Kaiju showdown, and the Scarvet is not enjoying this at all. Running away already. I was just trying to get some Kaiju fights in a close-up. But alas, that is not gonna happen as the Scarvet is demolished by the Merworm. Still half health right now. Walk Between Worlds is activated. Not that there's much more damage to mitigate anymore. Actually, wait, hold on. The Feral Dresaurian has returned. With that little bit of Earthblood healing earlier and Tyrion abandoning the chase, the Feral Dresaurian was able to rally and return to the battle. Even more healing is coming in, but it's up against an anti-large combatant, plus another harsh flancing to reduce its armor, boosting the damage from the Loathsome Seaguard. Regrowth and Shield of the Old Ones. Let's see if that's enough to keep the Dresaurian in the fight. Tyrion also returned, getting a proc heal from the Heart of Avalon. Almost back to full health, and the Feral Dresaurian, despite all those healing attempts, trying to keep it in the fight. It's probably not going to survive this one. Let's get a closer look at the monster mesh without the UI. And of course, Tyrion on the side, whacking the Dresaurian's leg. Even the Slime Age Priest is engaging in melee. That's how desperate things are for the Lizardmen. But alas, the Feral Dresaurian is routed, and the Slime Age Priest, knowing that he cannot challenge Select one eye in melee combat will be backing away with blow darts flying around and javelins maybe. Nope, the javelins actually ran out. So blow darts firing into the Loathsome Sea God, and more Loathsome Sea God shooting at some other skink skirmishers. Select one eye bullying some skinks on the ground and still at half health with plenty of regeneration left. Oceanit's still quite healthy, and Select one eye is just unstoppable at this point. There's nothing on the Lizardmen army with the Dressorian dead to kill the Merworm. And that concludes with a High Elf victory. In this battle, I feel like the MVP wasn't the damage dealers. It wasn't Select one eye and it wasn't Tyrion, it was the Mist Mage. The Nullstone is just such a powerful item, denying the enemy from casting spells to counteract your attacks. So I was able to send Tyrion and Select one eye into bursting down Feral Dressorian, and with the Nullstone help, the healing from the Slam Mage doesn't come in until the Feral Dressorian was already on the verge of routing. And so he was spending most of his time away from the battle, being poked down by the Merworm, by my Loathsome Sea God, and by Tyrion. So not getting a lot of damage value throughout the battle, while the Loathsome Sea God got a bit of damage boost due to the armor debuff with the Flancing and of course Tyrion and Select one eye getting some amazing work done against the enemy monsters. And of course, the physical resistance from the Walk Between Worlds was really handy for Tyrion and Select one eye, who can heal their own HP. They don't need more healing, they just need something to make their HP last longer. And that physical resistance does exactly that. The rest of the High Elf army though didn't do a whole lot. They are just mostly carried by the single entities today. And the Oceanists did alright, mostly driving back skinks and supporting infantry fights, while the Loathsome Sea God just shoot up whatever they can see. As for the Lizardmen there, poor Slime Mage Priest wasn't able to get much healing done because of the Nullstone, and the Scarvet tried his best, getting some very solid damage value. It's just that the Feral Dressorian didn't do much work, being bursted down by my characters, and losing such a valuable piece of monster in combat puts them in such a disadvantage that the rest of the Saurus and Skinks tried their best, but still just not able to turn things around. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I hope you will enjoy seeing the Merworm in action. I'll be bringing you more Tides of Torment multiplayer action later, so be sure to keep an eye out for new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.